Sid.
You raced with me back in the day.
Against.
Take them over
Right,
the car
sorry,
just
sorry.
so they don't spread out. And I think
Yes.
look around maybe, and then after he walks away, you're still looking, and then you push into the crowd. And pan. Very nice. Good. Screws up. Race day! So excited. About the forged documents.
Hey, Marker. Hey, Marker.
Sonny and Ruben were once on the same team. They raced together. They raced in Formula One back in the probably the late '80s into early
Yeah.
'90s, certainly in early '90s to mid '90s maybe. And through a tragic accident that Sonny experienced, that was kind of the end of his F1 career, and they seem to have gone different ways. In that amount of time, Javier's part, Ruben, has become very successful in the sport and is now evolved into a team owner. So now he's running his own Apex GP team, but as it stands, they're a last place team, and So he has this harebrained Hail Mary idea to bring back his old friend who never quite got to answer this thing.
And that is when he bets all that he has and he owns into the character of Sonny.
Well, it's
Because
more about desperation. Really. He's run out of
But
choices.
because he knows that he has a passion and he has a question still not answered inside of him that he needs to answer.
Because he's tried everything else and exhausted all other possibilities. He's got nothing left but the old friend.
And we're gonna witness how he's gonna really reach to the answer of that through the whole movie.
It's such a crazy idea. Joe Kosinski, our director, must have been sitting around after the success of Maverick going, what do I do next? I know. I'm going to do the most visceral, experiential racing movie ever made. I'm going to integrate the entire film into the F1 season. I'm going to put real actors and real cars on tracks on real race weekends, and we're going to make a movie.
Why
And
not?
somehow he pulled it off. Yeah, it's so audacious. I can't believe we actually got to get away with it.
I can't imagine this film being done with anybody else, in the sense that Jerry is one of the best producers ever in the history of cinema, and to be able to put this together and make possible that we will be immersed in the F1 world while they are doing their own schedule. It must be so complicated. I cannot even imagine. And the way Joe approaches such a big of a movie like this one is very peacefully and very easy and very you feel the stress, but he doesn't contagious you the stress that he has, and he gives you room to really experiment and try the scenes and play with it, and he's very focused on acting at the same time, which is crazy because the amount of answers that he has to give every second there are millions of them, but when he comes to acting, boom, he focuses and he really pulls you the best out of you.
Yeah, we've seen the name Jerry Bruckheimer on every other movie since childhood, and here's Jerry still doing it, still putting in the work.
Amazing.
He's on set every day.
His energy is relentless.
And he's so kind and respectful to everyone on the crew, from top to bottom. Really, really, really an impressive dude. And then you have Joe. You're right. I mean, well, everything he had to juggle in this movie, he's got to be working the technical aspect. They get to design cameras to fit in these cars. Where are they going to hide the battery away? You know, how's this going to work? Using old races to integrate our story in, finding these shots, and it's endless. On top of having to direct us bozos.
Yeah, absolutely.
No, it's a lot. It is a lot.
By far the most difficult thing he had to do.
Yeah. Joe very wisely said, "I'm going to make an F1 movie, but to do that, I'm going to have to get someone who everyone else is going to trust, who's going to sanction it, who's going to be able to guide us." And that he went to seven-time world champion Sir Lewis Hamilton, who has a love for movies as well as other art forms, and he was actually the first one to platoon this crazy idea. He was the first one he got in, and from there, Lewis opened up the entire ecosystem to us and introduced us to each team, every driver. We were in drivers' meetings. Team principals, and everyone, Stefano at F1, I mean, everyone just opened the doors for us to tell this story. It was quite incredible and unprecedented. That's just getting started. We would sit for hours with Lewis. I mean, I remember one 12-hour meeting that our ending came out of, where we would just say, what about this? What's this like for you? What if we went this way? No, that's not right, but you could do this. And we kept pulling from historic moments through F1 and how to tell this underdog story of this team that has very little to fight with. How are they going to become competitive? Yeah. Now let's get to, we've shot the movie a year and a half later and we're putting it together. Lewis would come in and he could tell you if you're in the wrong gear at turn 6. You know, I mean, the race knowledge is just unfathomable. He could tell you on whatever track we're on, yeah, when you're heading down the straight, there's a reverb that comes off the left wall. You need to add that sound in. I mean, the detail is extraordinary. It's just extraordinary. Killer cast.
Killer cast, great people to be around with. We've been together for a long, like a year and a half. I mean, not every day. Well, you mostly, but you know, it's all about the people that you are working with and the atmosphere and the humanity, and everybody around, everybody involved in this movie was very, like, I don't know how to say, like nice to be with, nice to be around with, nice to work with, and it made it possible. I cannot imagine being how hard this movie, how to fit this movie in the F1 schedule, for example, would have been if it was not that the case. If the case was like with somebody like the director being more difficult to work with, or that would have been a hell. But it was the opposite. It was like a family, like a team. We were a team. We were a team.
We had to gel. I mean, we're trying to film on race weekends, and we know we're going to get 5 minutes to do this particular scene, and I don't know. It was a real kind of gelling experience.
Absolutely, yeah.
But Carrie's amazing in it. There's a lot of things that happen in the movie where we don't understand quite what the motivation is till some time later. Carrie's, through her emotions in the film, she's actually the one telling us, she's almost narrating with her emotions, you know, what's happening in the movie. She actually leads us. Really important, really difficult to do. She's really amazing. Damson, he's so damn charming. I just want to. Besides being terribly slow, no, I couldn't. I couldn't have had a better sparring partner. I'm thrilled. Like he certainly can hold his own, and he's got great things ahead of him. But then I think of all the characters, Kim and Kim Bodnia, Sarah, and Will, and
they came with the best spirit. Yeah. We all went into there and with the best spirit.
Yeah.
And Joe knows how to direct actors, and he really makes us feel like protected and also welcoming our own proposals.
I think the lovely thing about this story is that each character has their own win, has their own hurdle they're dealing with, their own challenges, and like all great sports movies, you know, like I think of Hoosiers, like every character had this win at the end.
Moneyball is one of mine.
Yeah. Cool. Well, yeah, not so much of a win, but. Joe set out to make the most visceral, experiential racing movie of all time, and so the bigger the better. Yeah. I have yet to see it on IMAX. I can't wait because apparently it's quite a thrill ride, and I don't doubt it by the shots that he was able to maintain and develop, invent. What I've seen even on the small screen is pretty damn thrilling. So
the amount of work of so many professionals putting the best they know into every detail is really make it worth it to go to the biggest screen and enjoy every aspect of it.
I mean, it's the only sport I know of where your teammate can be your biggest competition, and that right there is a recipe for drama. So that's kind of where it started. I also like this idea of the story of a veteran driver who maybe had a shot at Formula One when he was younger, but something went wrong, kind of sending him off that path. He thinks he'll never get another chance, and a friend of his reaches out, gives him that opportunity, one last chance to kind of get a Formula One victory. That element to me, I felt like it was that notion of second chances or redemption story was something that I felt like anyone can relate to.
Well, I think you just want to create a story that's dramatic, that's romantic, that's funny. You want to have this kind of, everybody loves stories of sports stories that, from a team that can't get it together, a driver that had a chance that blew it, to give them a second chance. And how you can pull that team together. It's kind of the bad news bears when it starts. This team hasn't gotten 1 point. They've raced for, I don't know, 15 races and haven't been able to get a point. So it's how Sonny, Brad's character, comes into this team, pulls them together to try to get that one win, to save the team. So there's stakes. You want the stakes.
Yeah.
This is the kind of role that I always wanted to see Brad play. He, obviously he's an icon, incredible leading man, incredible actor. But I think he brings something really special to this role. There's a vulnerability he brings to it that I think is something that the audience is going to see. He's got a great sense of humor. This is one of those iconic characters, that I know he was really excited to play, and he's the perfect person for it. I can't imagine anyone else in the role. Well, it starts with having Lewis Hamilton as our producing partner. So he gave us a level of authenticity that you just couldn't get from anywhere else. We had to develop a whole new camera system for this film. We worked very closely with Sony, taking the camera system from Top Gun Maverick. We shrunk it down, we miniaturized it, we made it lighter. We adapted it to these cars that we built for the film. These are real racing cars that were built by Mercedes F1 team. So integrating the cameras into the car, giving you angles you've never seen before. Brad and Damson actually are driving the cars in this film. They trained for months to learn how to drive real race cars on real Formula One tracks. And we shot during real race weekends. So the crowd in the stands was really there. You're going to see Brad and Damson next to Lewis and Charles and Carlos on the track in this film. It's really the whole goal was to give the audience the feeling of what it's like to be inside one of these cars during a race, and hopefully we achieved that.
Well, the first call that Joe made was to Lewis, even before Brad, to get Lewis involved in it and become a producer with both of us to make this the most authentic racing movie ever. But it had to be emotional, so we had to make it real for their world and real for a real audience. So it doesn't matter if you know anything about racing to watch this movie, because you're on this emotional ride with our characters. But Lewis brought the authenticity, he brought Mercedes into it. Mercedes built 6 of our cars. They designed them, and it's an F1 body over an F2 engine, so they're rocket ships. And it's amazing how much Lewis brought to the party by giving us advice on the sounds. You're in second gear, not in third gear at this turn. You can't pass on this other turn; it'll create an accident. We created an accident. Just all the little things that he did. He sat for 12 hours with Brad and myself while he's racing. Don't forget, he's got a day job. Sat with us for 12 hours with Brad, Joe, and myself, Aaron Kruger, and who else was in there? I think Jeremy was in there too, to try to make this the most authentic movie ever. Just to go through every single scene and make sure we had the racing right and the emotion right. Great acting. He's a great actor, and he's a really good driver. That's what it's all about. He's got humor, he's charismatic, he's got everything that we love about movie stars. He's going to be a big movie star.
Because as an audience, you can tell if it's fake. You can tell if it's been shot on a green screen. You can tell if there's a stunt driver driving, the actor's just acting. You're not going to feel that in this film. That's Brad and Damson. That look on their face, that focus, that concentration, that's real, because they're driving a race car, around a corner at 180 miles an hour and trying to keep it on the track. So that's something that you can feel in your gut, and that was the goal of this film, to make it, put the audience in that car, and know what it feels like to be one of these guys. For me, Javier was kind of on the bucket list of actors I've always wanted to work with. This is the perfect role for him. We needed someone to play an old friend to Brad Pitt's character, and Javier is an icon himself. From the moment he walks on the screen, the relationship between the two of them feels like, that it's decades old. He's got so much warmth, so much soul, so much passion. He really brought the role to life. From what's on the page to what you see on screen, you know, he did what only great actors can do. And Carrie, again, phenomenal actor, you know, playing a woman in a man's world, you know, a team technical director. She's in charge of designing the car. She's desperate to prove that she belongs there. And Carrie just has all those qualities. And she's really funny and bright and, you know, really, again, brought so much life to that character.
Well, you have to. You want to make a real movie, look at it, this. We traveled to 10 different tracks through the movie. We traveled our cars. We built 6 cars. We moved them around the world. We built our own garage. We folded that up. That traveled around the world with us. It's an enormous undertaking. We had our actors actually driving the cars. We built a paddock. We were in between Ferrari and Red Bull in the garage area. So this is really authentic. We're shooting on the tracks in front of the crowds, in front of 100,000 people in the stadium, and most probably, I don't know how many people on
100 million people
100
on
million
TV,
people
yeah.
on TV watching what we're doing. So we had to get it right. The emotion, the sound, the fury, the ride we take them on. Get them inside a world they chances are they know nothing about, and give them the experience of a lifetime.
I've always wanted to play an athlete. I grew up wanting to be a football player. So any way I can get into the world of sports was really big for me in movies. But the no-brainer was, of course, the people that were involved. I love Top Gun, so I really wanted to work with Joe and Jerry. And then I've been a huge fan of Brad and Javier my entire life, and the glorious Kerry
Cute, I
Condon.
didn't mind if you left me out. I wouldn't have minded at all.
Never. Yeah, so that's why I wanted to be a part of it.
Yeah, I met before I even read the script. So I was the same. It was the team. I was like, oh my God, a big, massive movie, and I might be the female lead. I was like, come hell or high water, this is my part. And then when I read it, it was the same. It was like, oh, this to prep this and like figure all this out and immerse myself in it. I was like, I know exactly what I have to do to pull this off. Like, I think I'm the right person for it.
Joshua Pierce is a young, kind of arrogant rookie who wants to win a championship, but lacks the maturity to really lead the team. And then when Sonny Hayes' character comes to the team of Apex, he kind of butts heads with him, but over time builds a respect for him. So that's Joshua's story.
So Kate McKenna is the technical director of the team, and the team is at a low ebb when we meet them in the beginning of the movie. They're not doing well, and it's partly because of the car, which is Kate's responsibility. So her confidence is not great at the beginning of the movie. And her backstory is like she was married to this fella. Presumably she went to engineering in college and she was married, and she said she wanted to go in Formula One because Javier Bardem's character saw like she was talented, and the husband was against it, so she broke up with him. So I imagine she didn't have much experience with men, like that was her only kind of like fella. And then she put the head down and worked. And then we find her then at the beginning of the movie, like trying her best, knowing she's good, but like something isn't working and she can't figure out why it's not working. And then the rest is the movie.
The first time I met with Joe and Jerry, I had said to them, in Top Gun, people were flying those planes for real. How you guys going to do F1? Green screen, right? And they both deadpan looked at me. They're like, no, you're going to be driving the cars for real. And I put my poker face on, and I was like, I could do that.
A sweat.
Yeah. Sort of like a sweat of blood. But, you know, we trained for about 4 or 5 months behind different disciplines of race cars. And by the time we got into the cars that we used for the movie, you know, going from Grand Prix to Grand Prix, racing amongst the real crowd, you know, we were ready to go. And the interesting thing about driving was we had all these cameras on the car. So unlike Lewis and Max, when they're in a car and they could see everything, we could barely see. And sometimes we'd be going 180 miles per hour while saying lines at a specific place on the track.
With emotion.
With emotion, trying to look cute while we did it. So it really was, you know, a huge challenge. But the feeling after completing it, and the taps on the back of the shoulders, and the respect we received from the world of Formula One was second to none.
We went to the Barcelona Grand Prix for the very first time just to observe it. I didn't know anything about Formula One, and that was the first place that Joe sent me to just watch it and enjoy it. And we met a lot of different people there and just could ask them questions. And I met Bernie Collins, who's a strategist in real life, and she's from Ireland. So I immediately was like, I'm going to totally take her backstory in the sense of her education, what led her to Formula One. And then I started to realize it's actually like a lot, and my physics is not my strong suit. So I remember thinking, okay, I need to just take what I need for the movie to pull it off in a realistic manner. I cannot take in everything. I mean, it's just too complicated. So I took what was necessary for each scenes. And then props and things like that, I tried to make decisions based on other people I had seen. Like, did I want a notepad, or was she like a computer girl? And what buttons to press when I was talking to what particular people. So I made decisions that I kept the same, so to sell it, like to make it look like it was real. And then I let go all the preparation and I just had fun, because ultimately, like, I had to sell that I was like a human, and that's, like there was a part where you just have to let go. Otherwise you're kind of feel a little bit like stiff if you're just constantly trying to, make it so realistic. Like when he wasn't directing, he was like so kind as a person and so like a total gentleman. So it sort of it filtered down, all the crew that he'd had, they were all like gents and kind and lovely and helped you get a better performance. I never felt like anything I did was wrong. It was always like, oh, that's just an option. Let's try another option. And yeah, it was just a lot of fun for such a big budget, like stressful movie. It never really felt that way. And even in my scenes with Brad too, they were very playful, and it was never a time constraint. It was like we could try it like 100 times and just have fun.
Seems very refreshing to have a
Yeah,
nurturing environment
really.
in a movie like this. That's pretty remarkable.
What about for you? What would you find Joe?
I mean, my surprise with Joe was just like how free I felt around him. That, like you say, there was no bad choice, and I could say what I wanted to. Like I could improvise, I could play, because he trusted the actors that he hired, and I love directors like that who see it as a collaboration rather than a dictatorship.
Totally.
So working with Joe was just an amazing experience, and he is a laser-focused genius. Watching him during these moments of 8 minutes to 10 minutes, getting these shots, his eyes kind of lock in, and he's thinking of a million things at one time, and he's hitting everything to a T. So I was just really inspired to watch him work.
And he never lost the head with anyone. He was always calm.
There was that one time.
What one time?
I'm playing those.
I was like, when? I missed it. Brad and Javier. So Javier, like, because of our character's relationship, like he saw something in Kate, that she didn't even see in herself, and brought her into the world of F1. So I had that kind of feeling with Javier where he kind of like, that hug at the end, like just felt so real. Like he was like this one person who really believed in her. So I kept Javier as that for me. It plays out for me like it does in the film, and it's not like I go about my way to make it that way. It just kind of does naturally. And then same with Brad. Like I used to tease his accent. I was like the way he's, the American accent, the way he says car. I used to really highlight like how different he was to everyone. And he was very playful to work with and really in the moment, really natural, very like, oh, we'll see on the day, we'll see. So I was like, well, we'll see on the day. No problem.
I was just a huge fan of both of them, and just watching them work, I was able to just be a sponge and just really disappear in these scenes. They make it so easy. And there's a reason why they have such prosperous careers. They are amazing human beings too. I'm excited for people who actually don't know anything about Formula One to watch this movie, because they'll instantly see that there's so many themes that are relatable to real life, And that's not just a racing movie. You know, there's characters in there that you would know, that you'd walk past on the street. You know, we all know a Joshua who has this huge challenge and he's trying to overcome adversity and prove himself to the world. So when people leave the cinema, they're going to feel how they felt back in the day when they watched those big movies. They're going to wish they were of that world. Yeah.
Yeah, there's so many different nationalities and accents in the movie, and they like seamlessly sort of come together. So that is really nice to see in a movie. Like, and then it reminded me of when I was younger, like that feeling where you're like cheering and you want, like, it really evokes this like feel good, like feeling with the music and everything. And these like people who were losing, like learning and doing well. Like, it just was like a movie I would have seen when I was younger, that I would have remembered every line. And so I really hope people feel that like nostalgia feeling of like, that's why movies are so great. It's like you remember them forever and the feeling that you felt. It's also like a family movie too. Like, it's quite age appropriate. And a date movie also, because it's a little romance and there's something for boys and girls in there. Yeah, I think I just hope they feel like it was worth the money to go to the theatre because the sound and the camera work and everything.
What's exciting about the film is that we take the audience, you know, behind the scenes. You see, like, you know, how the magic happens really, and the kind of emotions and feelings and challenges that go on. I think probably from the outside sometimes the sport can feel, what is it, kind of monolithic in a way, but I think it's also a very human sport. It's about lots of ordinary people trying to do something extraordinary, and so hopefully this film will sort of bring an audience closer to that. My first thoughts on reading the script were, it's just a lot of fun. I think it's funny, it's characterful, it's human. Yeah, I think there's a lot of relatability, even though it's a very unusual world that people don't know about. I think there's a lot of interesting and likable and understandable kind of people within it. Obviously it's a piece of fiction, but because of the access that F1 have given the film, the hope is that we'll have a real authenticity to it. And, you know, so I think it will work both for people who are fans of F1, because I think it will work on that level, but also hopefully for people who don't know anything about it, will sort of draw them fully into this world in a very kind of complete way. It's been a real pleasure of the job to work with Javier, who I hadn't worked with or met before, but he's, yeah, a real joy. Very likable, so it hasn't been hard to be his friend in this. Even an action film, I think, is very dependent on, you know, the relationships that you kind of care about, that you mind what happens to these people, and I think, yeah, I think Javier is a huge part of that. It's been very exciting working with the team making this film. I feel like there's a lot of dedication, a lot of passion to make it right, a lot of attention to detail. Yes, as you say, the producers are really present. So in that way, it does feel like a proper sort of love letter to the sport. Lewis Hamilton's involvement has, I think, we wouldn't have been able to make the film without him, I would suggest, partly because he's been able to get us in and give us the access that we've had, and I think that's will have a profound effect on the film, because, you know, to shoot it in and around and, as I said, embedded in it is a very different thing than trying to sort of construct that somewhere else. I think the hardest thing to replicate is what it's really like trackside, what it's like in the cars, the speed, the intensity of this sport, the crowds. You know, definitely when, you know, that first scene that I shot at Silverstone, just having these banks of real crowd and the sort of noise that they made, just being able to sort of record and film in that is just like, it's just gold. You know? So yeah, and none of that would have been possible without Lewis.
Lewis Hamilton has been involved every step of the way, from, you know, creating the original story with me to getting every detail of the cars, from what gear you're in to what it sounds like when you're on the back straight, and has just been invaluable in getting this right. Rather than having a stunt driver actually controlling the cars, in this film, Brad and Damson are driving the cars by themselves. These are not special effects rigs. These aren't movie cars that are made to look like real race cars. These are race cars from the start that we developed, working hand in hand with AMG Mercedes, their designers and engineers, to build a race car specifically for making this movie. Lewis said to me, I've never seen a film that captures the experience of being in the car. So that was the goal. Just because of how we shot it, the fact it shot for real, Brad and Damson trained for months to be able to drive these cars. I think audiences are going to get a perspective of what it's like to be in one of these machines. It's the sound, it's what you're seeing, the feeling. The speed was the most important thing. These both of them are traveling, at ridiculous speeds around these tracks, and we used every tool we could to capture that. So you're going to see, camera angles and points of view that you've never seen before. I think we were able to capture something you can't even get from the broadcast of watching a real race. I mean, we're able to put cameras in places the broadcast can't. We're shooting with real film quality cameras that just give you a different experience from what you're used to seeing on TV. So when it's all said and done, I hope audiences get at least a fraction of what Lewis is experiencing when he's in a Grand Prix. One of the themes of this film is about teamwork, and you can't, a Formula One driver can't win a race by themselves. You need that support system behind you. I mean, there are literally thousands of people that work and build and design these cars, set them up. You've got, dozens of engineers on race day, monitoring every system. So this film, it's really about the team bringing a group of people together to do the impossible, which is try to win a Formula One race against, the titans of the sport. You've got Apex GP going against Ferrari and Mercedes and McLaren. These are legendary names, and there's a reason why they are the titans of the sport. So, for Apex GP, they really are, it's an underdog story. And Sonny Hayes and Joshua Pierce, they have to find a way to work together, and that's kind of the struggle at the heart of the film. You just can't fake what we were trying to capture. There's just no way that you can do it. You can't do it on a sound stage, and I don't think you can do it even if you build a race car with a stunt driver that was driving it for them. What you're going to see in this film is not only the physical effects, but you're going to see the intense concentration in their eyes. They are acting, when you see them driving, in that they're playing a character, but they're kind of not acting because they're really driving. And that's, again, something you just can't fake. The concentration, the exertion is all right there on the screen. And, after, a few hours of filming, they'd both be wiped out. There's only so much shooting you could do every day because it is so physically grueling to do it. There's no way we could have made this film without the tight partnership with Formula One. I mean, without the access we had, there's no way we could have pulled these scenes off. And the access they gave us was more than I could have ever dreamed of. I mean, we had a garage for Apex GP between Ferrari and Mercedes during the Silverstone Grand Prix. We had a garage in Abu Dhabi as well, and we were functioning just like another Formula One team during these races, doing pit stops, racing between sessions. we invited all the other teams to come visit us, on set, and I think they were all impressed with just how realistic our garage was. When you make a movie like this that's so immersive, it's fun to watch how the cast can kind of become their characters and they start acting like a real, in this case, a real Formula One team. We're traveling around the world together, going to all these races, shooting on the pit wall during real races, and it is like we became a real team. And so there's that camaraderie that's built behind the scenes. It starts to, you can feel it on screen as well, and it just makes them all feel very naturally connected. And from a director, I think that's one of the most gratifying things, is to see those friendships form off screen and see how that's reflected on screen. And yeah, this movie took 18 months to film, and we built some really strong friendships and connections over the course of that. And I think you'll see that on screen. Brad is, he's one of our, he's like a national treasure. He's an icon. And I wanted this character to be iconic as well. So for me, this is kind of like the character I always wanted to see Brad play. So to be able to get to do that with him and see what he brings to Sonny Hayes has been an incredible experience. It just feels like it's a role that's made for him, and he took it and made it into so much more. He's an icon for a reason. He works very hard. He's involved in every aspect of the filmmaking process. He's also a great producer, and working with him, you see why. He's, involved in every aspect of the script and putting the movie together, and has a very strong point of view and great taste, and is just great to work with, and always had a really strong sense of who Sonny Hayes was and what he wanted to bring to the character. And then on top of that all, he was just, again, a naturally talented driver.
I've been racing for 32 years, and I've loved the sport since I was 5 years old. When we came across there was this moment where I got to speak with Joe about this potential project, Joe and Jerry, who asked me to come on board, and I jumped at the opportunity. And to be honest, I'd been really trying to figure out what could be a stepping stone from racing one day, a kind of a side stepping stone of something I'm also really passionate about. And movies is one of those things that I love pretty much as I do racing. And so I got this opportunity to go back in the background, where I got to meet up with Jerry and Joe at Jerry's office, the legend himself, and meet with Brad and go through this script. And it was all a big learning process for me. I'm learning how they like to work, all the processes that go in place to build and create a movie. I never in a million years thought I'd get to work with Brad Pitt. I've seen all of his movies, huge fan, and I think getting to the first time I met him, I was in Jerry's office and we were going through casting, and Brad was on Zoom, so got to meet him in that split second. But then we got to go to a track, and I got to drive around with him. I got to learn that he's massively into motorsport, and particularly bikes. But then when we went round the track, I realized he's got an underlying ability actually to really drive, and I know it's a real passion of his to get behind the steering wheel. Having these two both go through the process of the mental challenges that we go through as racing drivers, the speed in which you're taking information in, also the effect of the body, how strong the brakes are, the G-forces. I think it was really important for them. You can't get that. You can't fake that. If you've not experienced it, you can't imagine. And so I think it's really important. And they were so open-minded. They As I said, Brad, I think, had been following racing for some time, so he already generally had a bit of an idea. I think he had done some track days maybe before, so he kind of already had the gist of lines that you could take. But then when he got into the race cars, he realized it was even a bigger step from there. And then Damson started from scratch completely. He's never done any track time, not knowing any lines, and so maybe even a steeper curve for him. But I think both of them got real appreciation for what being a racing driver and really means, and that's what you get to see in the film. Apex didn't stick out like a sore thumb. It was done so well. I think the approach from the whole team, everyone was so professional. Some people were racing fans before, and I think some were new to it and gained a lot of appreciation during the journey of being able to film at real races. This wasn't a set. It's like unheard of. There's obviously some of the technology that Joe used when he did Maverick with the fighter jets. He's able to bring part of that technology into this, but also develop it and take it to another level. I think it was really neat. I remember there was one moment actually. It was Budapest. It must have been 2023, and I got out the car after the race, and I hadn't even realized they were filming, if I'm really honest. But I went over to Brad, and I went over and fist bumped him or something like that. I think my emotions were going crazy because I just finished the race, so I wasn't really thinking. But afterwards, you got in the way of the shot. But it was really cool how they were there filming live, but they were never in a way. So it was really cool. I really wanted to make sure the film the cast was diverse, and making sure that women are seen on screen. So we've got the engineer, we've got the aerodynamicist, for example. She also works in strategy, but also one of the mechanics that's in the pit stop is a woman. And then you've got just diverse characters. I want people that are watching to be like, oh, there's a place for me there. And so maybe for kids, they got to get into STEM to become engineers. And so there's a big knock-on effect of the possibilities and the positive effects, hopefully, it will have. You're going to be on the edge of your seat watching this film, because the sound. You've got Hans Zimmer. You've got the effects. The backfiring of the exhausts. You're going to feel the adrenaline through this movie. And I've watched it several times, obviously, as we've been editing and working on it, and each time I get that feeling. So I know it's real, and I really, really know people are gonna get to feel that also. And that whole mixture of different worlds, we've just got the mixture of emotions, the romance, the fights that you see, the close contact. It's definitely gonna raise some hairs, I think, on people's arms.
It is such a high. It is unlike any high I've ever experienced before. It's shocking, again, what these cars can do. And I think the first month is really just learning to trust the car. The car will do it. The car will stick to the ground. The car will brake. Just trust the car. And this was a constant mantra with me. So if you're going down a straight and you have it pinned and they tell you can brake at the 75-yard marker, and I mean, when you brake, it's like you put all your force into it, and this car will slow down in time. You could go from 180 miles an hour to 40 miles an hour, like that, in the shape of that amount of space. And to trust that the car is going to stop, even when you're heading for a wall, is something your mind, you got to make the switch. The second one is that the car sticks in these high-speed corners. That's the most shocking. You just think there's no, any other car is going to roll. These things, it's the more you put into them, the more it gets compacted to the ground, the better it sticks, the faster you can whip around this corner. And I mean, by the end of it all, we were hitting speeds that just felt like, you know, the physics of it all just wanted to rip your head from your shoulders. It was so awesome, so staggeringly awesome, what these cars can do. My first moment of filming is at Silverstone, race weekend, in front of 120,000 fans. And we had to prove to F1 that we could slot ourselves into the race weekend because it is military precision, it is to the minute. And so we had a 20-minute slot where we could go out on quali day in front of the fans and film ourselves. That first weekend, just feeling like we're on hallowed ground, and we are stepping into a sport that is so revered and treated like religion and has such a profound history to it. So it's very humbling, and we just wanted to make sure we didn't get in anyone's way, and that they were still could focus on what they needed to do, and we could tell our story as embedded into this race schedule. By the end of it, whatever it was, a year and a half later, it just felt like our own backyard. We'd been there so long. We'd had a lot of talks with the guys. Everyone had been really gracious with us, the teams, and we had a lot of laughs, and we felt oddly a part of it. I love that Javier. We were really, really lucky to get him. He's one of our best, and you watch this guy, he's just so inventive. Each take, there's the movie, there's a take that ends up in the movie, and then there's a whole series of takes that we get to see. And he's one of those guys that is always like ratcheting it up, pulling it down, trying this, trying that, and it's really inventive and it's really fun to watch. When Lewis came on, then it was a go, and it was a simple phone call for me. And I remember we sat down that first time, and that's less about racing and more about just sitting with a gem of a human being. There's a reason champions are made, I think, beyond just talent, and it's also how they carry themselves and how they face the world. And he is just a gem and a gent, really, really. And then you come to the expertise that he has brought to this thing, and he would give us like 12 hours in a day, and we would just sit and just query and throw questions at him, and what about this? And he really helped shape this film.
Joe Kosinski and Jerry Bruckheimer are bringing the excitement that we all shared and had while watching Top Gun Maverick on a big screen into the racetrack and into the Formula One world, and to a point where we are so inside the real F1 world that is kind of crazy. When we were shooting it, to be among all the real drivers in the real racetracks, in the real competitions, having Brad and Damson driving the real tracks with the real cars, it's like, it can't get better than this. It has a heart and it has a motive about really what it means to be comrades, what it means to really sacrifice yourself for a team, for the best of others, and for a group of people to win together rather than just get the victory just for yourself. It's an exercise about really sacrificing yourself in order to belong to something greater than your own ego. They go fast, and they love it. And then I was talking to the Formula One driver that has been helping them since months prior to shooting this movie, and he told me, beyond the F1 drivers that I know, they are the best drivers I've seen, which is a lot to say for a Formula One driver. They are committed. They are committed, both Brad and Damson, to make it real, and they are relentless, and they don't stop, and they love getting on the track. The thing with Joe, the director, is that he comes to set every day. He's super nice with everyone. He's super cool. He always had a smile on his face. He's dealing with many aspects of the shooting, many aspects of the production that I cannot even imagine. And he's super tranquil. He's giving the actors all the time that they need. He's giving great acting direction, great tips that really changes the whole aspect of the scene for you. He gives you different opportunities to try different things, but he knows exactly what he's looking for. And then he puts all the things together, and it's absolutely mesmerizing. It's a great experience to be on a theater, sharing the same movie with an audience, the sound, the images, the story, to feel like protected by a group of people that are having the same experience at the same time than you, and watching a movie that is done exclusively for them to have that experience on a big screen. And I think this movie is going to be one of those that you cannot miss on the biggest screen possible, because the quality of sound, visuals, colors, everything is going to be absolutely transfixing. I truly, truly admire him. I mean, he's a fantastic actor. He has done really, really great work through the years, and being able to be close to him, feel like, wow, it's amazing that I can share some scenes with this guy who I happen to admire so much. And then, after knowing him even more, because he couldn't be sweeter and nicer. We have played quite a few good scenes where we both had to play with each other, and it was a delight. It was a delight to be in front of him and to feel that energy of creative something together without us knowing where it will take us, and be fine with that. And not only be fine with that, but really like encouraging each other to really go whatever it takes us. And that's beautiful.
The reason why I wanted to be a part of it, aside with working with all the creatives, was I really related to Joshua. I really felt like I knew him, and it became a compulsion of mine to protect him and to show him to the world in his best light. I could relate to being an underdog, a rookie, a young actor, and having a need to want to prove yourself so badly, and I think that is what Josh was going through. F1 the movie follows the character of Sonny Hayes, a down and out ex-F1 driver who's been given the opportunity to return to the sport to help a back-of-the-grid fictional team by the name of Apex win their first race. His ex-teammate and team owner, Ruben Cervantes, played by the amazing Javier Bardem, informs Sonny Hayes, played by the spectacular Brad Pitt, that the team has a young phenom, a talented rookie, played by yours truly, called Joshua Pierce, who just lacks the confidence and leadership and maturity to really push the team to the next level. So this is where Brad's character comes in to try and assist the team. The movie follows the remaining 9 races, starting from Silverstone, and essentially follows this back-of-the-grid team trying to accomplish this goal. Brad Pitt is the perfect actor to portray Sonny Hayes because he is one of the most humble, giving actors I've ever had the experience of working with. He's charming, he's talented, he's unpredictable, like Sonny, and he's the ultimate collaborator, and he just wants you to win. And just the dynamic between the two of us has been so amazing for me personally, because, you know, he sees me as next up, and he's supporting that, you know, and he's giving me ideas, and he's giving me pointers, and he's encouraging me, he's congratulating me. And I think that's a dynamic that's building amongst Joshua and Sonny too. So the relationship is really organic and it's really authentic. The chemistry is just seamless. Working with Brad Pitt is easy. First of all, I feel it in my cheekbones. But I remember Joe saying, and Jerry, you're never gonna see speed like this. in any other film. And from seeing so much of the footage and the driving sequences, it definitely looks rapid. So I think the camera crew have just done an extraordinary job at that. And you know, we're driving with all of these camera mounts on, but we're really capturing everything, you know, from the apexes to the crowd, everything's just whizzing by. You know what track you're on. It's so authentic, it's so real, but the speed is one thing that, especially in IMAX, I can't wait for people to experience. You've got a packed stadium, you've got other drivers and other racing teams who are doing what they do every week. And then here you are trying to film a movie in a slot of 10 minutes. The pressure's definitely on. I always remember to have fun. But in all things, I think the focus is to remember that we're trying to create something great, and that's going to come with challenges. And we always pull it off. We have always pulled it off, whether it's in Budapest, Monza, Abu Dhabi, Silverstone. Those 10-minute slots are really remarkable, and it's brilliant that Formula One gave us that time. The biggest highlight for me in working with the amazing Joe Kosinski is not only how much of a visionary he is, but just how collaborative he is. As a young actor on a movie of this magnitude, you wouldn't necessarily think you could be afforded the luxury of actually having ideas and having an opinion and being able to rework scenes and give ideas. And I think Joe just welcomes all of that. He's such a sponge to creativity, and I just couldn't imagine anyone else directing this film. He's so giving, he's so humble, and you know, the process of this movie has been a challenging one. And every step of the way, Joe's had a smile on his face. So it's amazing to be underneath such a great leader.
The whole project came about because Joe Kosinski and I worked on Top Gun together. And Joe came to me and he said, I got this idea about doing a Formula One movie. And he pitched me the story and had a really well worked out story. And he said, you know what we should do? Listen, the #1 driver, 7-time world championship, is Lewis Hamilton. And I've met him through Tom Cruise because he wanted to be in Top Gun. But when I spoke to him and I laid out our schedule, he said, well, I got to take care of my day job, so I got to do all these races. But I would love to be in the movie, but it's too long a time span for me. But he said, I'll come on and help you. I'll produce it with you. I'll do whatever you need. And that was our entree into how do we get this movie made. You had to have Lewis Hamilton involved in this. He is obviously one of the greatest drivers ever. What Joe wanted is real authenticity. He wanted to make the best racing movie ever made. And in order to do that, you have to put your actors in the cars. It's dangerous, it's exciting, but it's the only way to make the movie. And when you see the film, you'll see both our actors actually driving these really powerful engines and cars. It's really an immersive experience. The audience is going to feel what it's like to be in an F1 car driving at phenomenal speeds going around these unique racetracks. Joe Kosinski, among a lot of things, he's an enormously talented director, but his casting is amazing. And he put together this eclectic group of actors that had to actually become pit crew. They had to learn about Formula One. They had to put enormous amount of hours in training and figuring out how to change tires and about the engines and travel with us to these 9 different races. And it became like a camp, like a family. They all became part of our family. And that was so much fun about making this movie. We have a lot of the drivers in the film, the actual drivers for F1. They became a part of it. They became very excited, skeptical at first, but once they saw what we were doing, they were all in. When you're in a crowd of, I can't tell you how many, 40 or 50,000 people watching you on the grid with our actors and our cars lined up with all the great drivers and all the great teams for F1, it put a chill down your spine. It was really something special. Joe Kosinski is somebody who made an enormous successful movie with us, Top Gun Maverick. And he understands how you blend action and drama and reality. It's something that is a gift that you have as a director. And also he tends into the humorous situation too. He likes to sprinkle humor and reality to it. But what he wanted to do was make an authentic movie. And that's why you want Joe, because it's authentic, you believe it, it's something that audiences will want to get in their car and rev it up when they're done. It's pretty exciting when you walk out of the theater. You feel something, it's emotional.
We're first introduced to Kate, she's working for Apex and they're a losing team. It's like been 2.5 seasons and they've got 0 points, so they're on a, like, it's, the vibe is not good at the beginning of the movie. And I think her confidence is pretty low because the car that she has designed is referenced as a shit box and is not doing well, and there's problems with the car. So I think she's a kind of losing confidence in herself. And she's the technical director of the team, so that's a big responsibility. Joe he's so prepared, like insanely prepared, but not rigid in how he's prepared. He's so collaborative, he's so respectful of everybody. He's such good manners just as a person. But also, like, his attention to detail is incredible. Like, today we were doing a close-up of a page of a paper, and he stopped halfway through. He's like, yeah, we need new paper because it's getting crumply. Like, I know that, like, a lot of people wouldn't think of that. And it's these, like, tiny little details. He also is extremely intelligent, which I think you need to be extremely intelligent when you're dealing with this sort of camera shots and this sort of a technical movie. It's not all set in one location, so you know what I mean. It's like extremely technical, extremely hard, so you have to be extremely intelligent to handle something like this. But also there was a thing that, like, I didn't predict about Joe, where he really encouraged us and me to have fun. It was kind of cool when he came to set, I'm not gonna lie. You could tell when Lewis was on set. There was a vibe when Lewis would come and visit. But I mad to ask him so many things. It was always very brief, and I was always working when he comes to set, so I couldn't really get to talk to him. There was so many things I wanted to ask him, and hopefully I will get to ask him. But he's such a gentle fella and just so well-mannered as well, and so positive. He's such a positive person. That's what I'm saying. It's like being around people who are really great. It's just like so inspiring. Their attitude is so inspiring. Working along Brad, he's so natural. That was something that I really found when I was in the scenes with him. Like, he's just so natural. It's crazy. Sometimes it's like, I feel like it's hard to tell when he's acting. Like, it just seems so natural and very in the moment. He's a very in-the-moment actor, and I'm very in-the-moment actor, and that's so much fun. It'll be full of action, but there's also a bit of romance for the ladies, because I'm a sucker for a bit of romance in movies. So there's a bit of romance, and then it's also quite funny too. Like, there's we had some great writers come on board with the script, so it's quite funny and light. I am excited to see the racing in the cinema, though. I think I will want to see that in the cinema, because I think you're going to feel like you're in a car, and I want to appreciate all the camera work.
I had to meet team principals in Italy. Why? While they were setting up to drive. I mean, I came there while they have all this going on. And team principals, they have, quite of a job. And they had time to meet with me, to invite me, to listen to what they could help with. What? So, what can you help with? I said, nothing, just this is a help, enough. Because, the preparation for me, it's about senses and feelings. So one thing I can see through the internet. Another thing is just to be together so close with another human that actually is doing what my character is doing. That is everything I need. And also the openness of, I was allowed because of Team Principle to go everywhere. So I could actually just go around and smell and touch and listen and see. And that was, for me, the preparing of Kasper Smolinski's part. When I saw Brad Pitt and Emerson drive the first time, I saw them, they have been driving before that, but I saw them drive the first time. Wow, I was shocked. The fun stuff is that that I've been following them driving the first time in Silverstone, and then they go next day, and they get more and more intense, and they drive more and more faster. And that development I saw from the first drive with them was incredible, how they dare to push it even more and more and more. My team haven't won any point, got any point for so many years that my boss and his investors have to back out. So this is our last chance. This year of driving is our last chance. It's my last chance as team principal to have a team. To have Hamilton integrated in this, everything. I mean, what have been achieved through his driving, and then connect with a man, human, that did that. Wow. I mean, it can only bring us to the next level, and the next level. And what he brought in as a producer to support us just being there and showing up and open up his mindset and heart and believe on it. The driving and what Joe and the team have been doing. You know, if you have seen Top Gun, Mary, come on. This is Top Gun on the ground. I'm gonna look forward to see it. I mean, I can't wait to see it, and it's gonna be showed in IMAX. Ah, unbelievable.